I was 19 when they sent me to and I thought I was ready for war. But nothing. No training, no speeches, no uniform. Prepares you for hell frozen solid. Our boots cracked in the cold. The river Volga, once wide and roaring, was now a slab of ice, littered with the husks of sunken boats and dead men. Above us, ash fell like snow. And the city was already dead. Buildings shattered, steel twisted. Every street was a graveyard, every floor a battlefield. But we were told one thing: hold Stalingrad, or die trying. The Germans had already taken most of the western bank. They came with tanks, artillery, and absolute belief. They thought we were finished. They thought winter would kill us faster than their bullets. They were half right. Frostbitten fingers. Open wounds that froze before they bled. We shared boots, rations, breath. One rifle between 3 men. You fired, then you died. Then the next man picked it up. At night, we huddled in burnt cellars. We wrapped corpses in blankets to keep the rats away. The water froze in our canteens before sunrise. And yet, we held. Because the enemy was no longer just the German Sixth Army. It was the cold, the hunger, the silence between bombardments, when you wondered if you'd wake up tomorrow. I watched a comrade eat pages from his notebook. Another shot himself just to get out of the front. One man set his own leg on fire. Frostbite had already taken it, and he just wanted to feel anything again. And yet, we held. Because to us, Stalingrad wasn't just a city. It was the line. If we broke, the Volga would turn red, and behind it lay Moscow home. So we fought. With shovels, with knives, with bricks and bare hands if we had to. And still the Germans came. But we had something they didn't. Nothing left to lose. In the next chapter I'll tell you how we turned from prey to predator, how the freezing wind became our ally, and how, for the first time, the mighty Wehrmacht realized it could bleed. By mid-November, most of us were already ghosts. We didn't fight to win. We fought so the men beside us wouldn't die alone. But then, something shifted. November 19th, 1942. Before sunrise, the air was silent, colder than any breath we'd ever taken. And then, the ground trembled. At first, we thought it was another German bombardment. But no. This time, it was ours. Thousands of Soviet artillery pieces, hidden in the snow, buried in forests, frozen in silence for weeks, all opened fire at once. Operation Uranus had begun. We'd heard rumors, whispers that Zhukov had pulled entire armies from the east, that the Germans were over. That winter was no longer just an enemy. It was our weapon. And now, the Red Army struck. Not head-on, but from the flanks. We encircled the German Sixth Army. Hit them where they didn't expect. Romanian divisions guarding the rear lines collapsed within hours. They weren't ready. They weren't dressed for the cold. They weren't prepared to fight Soviet tanks rolling over the snow like wolves in the dark. From the north and the south, Soviet forces closed in. And by November 23rd, the trap had snapped shut. 300,000 Axis soldiers were trapped in, and we, the ones who'd been defending rubble and ashes for months, became the wall that held the cage closed. Inside, the Germans panicked. Food ran low, ammo ran out. The Luftwaffe tried to resupply them by air, but our anti-aircraft gunners turned the skies into death traps. They froze like we had. They starved like we had. They began to eat horses, then dogs, then each other. Their discipline began to crack. And still, Hitler ordered, no surrender. Hold Stalingrad. But the will of men breaks long before the snow does. We pushed forward, house by house, room by room. I remember storming a basement bunker. 3 German soldiers inside, too weak to lift their rifles. They didn't beg. They were no longer monsters. Just men who had been sent too far and left behind. And we were no longer just defenders. We were the avalanche. In the next chapter, I'll tell you what happened when Paulus, the proud German general, was forced to make a choice between pride and survival, because by the time January came, there was nothing left to hold on to. By January 1943, Stalingrad was no longer a battlefield. It was a grave. The Germans, once confident, armored, ruthless, were now starving ghosts, huddled in cellars, wrapped in curtains and straw sacks. They had no food, no fuel, no future. And yet, Hitler still commanded. Fight to the last man. But even the most loyal army has a breaking point. On January 31st, Soviet troops surrounded the final German headquarters in a ruined apartment block. Inside, sitting in silence, was Field Marshal Friedrich Paulus. He had once led a mighty force of 300,000. Now, just over 90,000 remained alive. Most were too weak to stand. The irony? Hitler had promoted Paulus to Field Marshal just 1 day earlier, a title no German officer had ever surrendered with. The message was clear: die with honor, or don't come back. But Paulus didn't pick honor. He picked life. He surrendered. It wasn't a handshake. There were no speeches. Just quiet, and the sound of boots crunching over ice. The Battle of Stalingrad was over. From July 1942 to February 1943, nearly 2 million lives had been lost on both sides. Soldiers, civilians, children. It was the bloodiest battle in human history. And it changed everything. Because before Stalingrad, the Germans had only advanced. After Stalingrad, they only The myth of Nazi invincibility was shattered. The Red Army, once seen as broken and chaotic, had proven it could defeat the best. The world finally saw that Hitler could be stopped. But the victory came at a price. I saw boys turn into murderers. Friends freeze beside me in the snow. Men cheer at sunrise, only to die by noon. We weren't heroes. We were survivors, and some part of us never left that city. Even today, under Stalingrad's streets, bones still lie buried in ice. Not just German bones, not just Soviet bones, human bones. No uniforms, no flags, just reminders of what war really costs. And when you walk through the city now, renamed Volgograd, the walls still whisper. They whisper of frost and fire, of betrayal and bravery, of a day when the snow turned red and history changed course. Thank you for watching Battle Reborn. If this story gripped you, share it, remember it, because every generation needs to know. Freedom is not inherited, in blood and in blizzards, by those who choose not to run.